Welcome to this week's Whole Lotta Glove. I have a very special guest, Tyler Webb, good buddy of mine, all-time career appearances record at South Carolina legend. So Webb, thanks for coming on. How you doing, man?
Good, thanks for having me. There were so many people, like I didn't recognize Main Street when we were on the floats. For the most part, that was my experience in pro ball. Like all the guys that were super famous were so nice, and as long as you did your job, they'd be there to help. Yadier, CC was super nice, a hoppy heater and all that kind of stuff. And then figuring that out, like kind of slowly, it was like, oh, I do spin it efficiently. It does appear a little, I hide it pretty good.
Proud to be partnering with Underdog Sports, my favorite place to play fantasy games. You got to check out Pick'em. It is so easy to play. Just pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite player and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can go 20 times your money by going 5 for 5. Sounds like fun? Sign up with promo code COURT, C-O-U-R-T, to claim your free pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. I can't wait to see your interest.
Welcome to this week's Whole Lotta Glove. I have a very special guest, Tyler Webb, good buddy of mine, all-time career appearances record at South Carolina legend. So Webb, thanks for coming on. How you doing, man?
Good, thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. So one thing I know about you is you hate talking about yourself and you hate bragging on yourself, but that's pretty much what we're going to do for the next 30, 45 minutes. So you'll be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Let's start in high school. So you were a top 250 recruit in the country, number 6 player in the state of Virginia. Mm-hmm. What made you want to come spend the next 3-4 years of your career at South Carolina?
The weather. I mean, was the driving factor to get me down here. The whole travel ball scene. You go play in front of all those all the coaches, kind of like at their home stadium and stuff. So we got to come play it was the Sarge, and
mm-hmm.
then at Clemson, North Carolina, I think. I want to say Cary because North Carolina was under construction
mm-hmm.
at that point. So got to see all the bigger programs and really kind of fell in love with the weather. And where I was in Virginia, like so far east, like even the schools I grew up liking, like, Virginia Tech and all them, they were 6 hours away in the mountains and it's cold. And like, well, I could go 6.5 and be in, Columbia. So that got me down there, and then, had a couple to pick from at the end.
Who were the ones you picked from at the end?
So it was South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Virginia, and was talking to Coach Holbrook, who was at North Carolina at the time. Didn't get an official offer from them, but was like, talking to him pretty heavily, and
mm-hmm.
then they were in the College World Series, so I had to wait on them for a little bit, and then chose South Carolina, and Holbrook told me it was a terrible mistake, and then he was the coach like 2 weeks later.
Yeah. Did you wear the hard hat on your visit when they were building Founders Park, or was it already almost done by the time you visited down here? Or do you remember?
I don't know if I wore a hard hat. It was definitely under construction. I remember like Coach Tanner giving us like the tour and like walked us through the weight room, and it's all dirt floor, like no windows. And he's
mm-hmm.
like, well, if you can imagine. But North Carolina was also renovating at the time. So like the 2 main ones I was looking at were like kind of on even playing fields, in the midst of a reno. So I think that might have helped.
Yeah, had to use your imagination a little bit.
Yeah.
So you came in with a group of guys that you ended up getting extremely close with throughout your career: Christian Walker, Marzilli, Bryson Selleck. Mm-hmm. Did you know any of those guys through the travel ball circuit, or did you really just form those friendships when y'all got to campus?
Not one of them. Didn't know any of them. Met them, and I don't even think on my visit they were there. I think I mm-hmm.
had
a weird date or didn't catch everyone in that official visit or whenever I came down. So I didn't even meet them then. Basically walked in the dorm and E-Squad and met them all. So
E-Squad.
It worked out. It was a good group for sure.
So describe your first fall camp, fall scrimmages. Did you know that team was going to be special? Obviously, we're talking about 2010, the year South Carolina won the first national championship. Could you tell, or did that kind of progress throughout the year?
I couldn't tell.
No.
I mean, I was so worried about not screwing up that I wasn't really looking at anybody else and what they were doing. I was just trying to kind of get my feet under me and do what I was supposed to do. And it was kind of a whirlwind that first fall into, spring and with school. It's just such a big transition from high school that it was, especially, the rural high school I grew up in, like where you knew everybody and graduated with 100 people. Like, I felt like I got dropped in the middle of like New York City. I'm just in Columbia, but it was a pretty big transition for sure.
Yeah. So I had to do a ton of research on you. Learned a lot about you, actually. Looking at your freshman year, it looks like you started as a starter, which I had no idea. Obviously, when I got there in 12, you were full bullpen. You started against Duquesne, Brown. You had a SEC Freshman of the Week start against Tennessee, and then kind of out of nowhere transitioned to the bullpen, and you got a ton of appearances. You ended up, throwing a perfect inning against Oklahoma in the College World Series, and then in UCLA in the national championship. How difficult was it to change roles kind of smack in the middle of your freshman season to go from starting to now you're just kind of a bullpen guy?
It was a while ago, so I can't really.
Use your memory the best you can. I have a terrible memory too.
I'd say it was a little difficult just to like go from that. I would say the main thing was like saying that you were ready, like. Starter routine, if you've warmed up enough starters, they take an hour to long toss and then get their flat ground and then, the bullpen throws just to get ready for a start. And then, you go to the bullpen and, Coach Dan, is he ready? Like, and you just stood up. So like you kind of had to condense all that and kind of just wing it as hard, just get it hot as fast as you could. And I would say that was the biggest thing to learn and not waste any pitches, which, I mean, I probably wasted a lot in college looking back, from what I got to in pro ball. But I would say that would be the biggest transition. But other than that, I enjoyed the bullpen and eventually, kind of found a role down there. But, I guess, like, everyone's a failed starter at some point. So it just happened a little quicker.
Like I said, I had no idea that about you. So, and I've played catch with you and caught you enough to know that you're very big into your routine, getting ready. That feels like a pretty big switch from starter to 2 weeks later. Now you're in the bullpen having to, like you said, be ready at the tip of a hat. So I wanted to ask that. What were the vibes like in that bullpen? There was a bunch of characters that year in 2010. You're a true freshman. Yeah. Did you fit in pretty well right away, or did you kind of try to keep your distance a little bit?
I might have tried to keep my distance a little bit, but you're down there so long, so many hours, you're so bored.
Yeah.
That you kind of, learn to fit in. And, some of my fondest memories are looking back in that bullpen when we're just screwing around down there trying to waste time. Because like people ask me about like, oh, what was it like playing? I was like, like, I wasn't in the dugout. I can't tell you what happened. I wasn't in there.
You just ruined some of my questions then.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I mean, I feel like we were just like, Coach Tanner was like, go to the bullpen. Just be down there. Like, no one was running across the field. Like, the game started, we high-fived, Coop or Dyson, and sat down in the bullpen until the phone rang.
Yeah. So, true freshman from Virginia, you come down, you win a national championship your very first year. Describe that feeling, winning that title, and just that whole season in general. Most people commit to a school, they have no idea that they're going to win a title their first year. We're obviously getting into your whole career, but describe that feeling of that 2010 team and the dog pile, the first ever championship in the history of the school.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I think looking back, like, we were kind of lucky that, at least I thought, like, we were just so naive that it kind of wasn't that big of a moment. Like, it was, like, I feel like most people would say maybe they were a little more nervous to get through the Super, and that was such a big deal and a crazy game that, like, once we got to Omaha, it was like, okay, like we're here, like this is an accomplishment. And then we lose the first game. We're like, man, this won't take very long. And then like, kind of loosened us up even more, and then just went on that pretty ridiculous run there. But I think everyone was so laid back and so, handled their business when, the game started, but in between the games and everything, people were loose, having fun, and didn't take it too serious.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, I was a junior in high school at the time, and being from Columbia, y'all might not have thought it was a big deal. It was a huge deal for the people here. Y'all saw that when you came back for the parade. So you get into your sophomore year, 2011, again, another national championship. Very similar situation for your sophomore season. You started again as a starter. First couple starts against Santa Clara and Southern Illinois, then it was all back to relief appearances. Can you did the coaches give you an explanation or tell you why that happened both of your first 2 years, or do you think it was just what the coaches decided?
They might have given me an explanation. I can't remember. Yeah. I think it was just like the build up to like, instead of 5 innings to 6 or to 7, what you want out of a weekend guy. Like those extra 2 innings were just taxing and they kind of just didn't develop. And then, because all through the fall, like I had really good falls, pretty much my whole 4 years, but like the most you were throwing was 4 innings.
Yeah.
Like more of probably a relief outing. Like looking back now, I'm like, well, yeah, no wonder I was good. Like, I didn't have to go 7 innings. So I think like the build up to those 6 or 7 innings was a factor. And then maybe that I had some success my freshman year out of the bullpen that I could do that. But you need those weekend guys to go deep in games, and I wasn't really doing that. So went to the bullpen and kind of luckily found a role down there.
Yeah, found a really good role. And you mentioned the loss to Oklahoma in 2010. From that point on, South Carolina didn't lose a postseason game for a long time. Talk about the complete domination of that 2011 team. Didn't lose a single game in the postseason, and now you're back-to-back national champions. Compare that team to the 2010 team that kind of clawed their way back through the losers bracket to just completely dominating everybody.
It was kind of the same, but a little different. Like maybe less being naive and maybe a little more, cocky confidence kind of, and just having that belief that we could win and we were that good, and we were going to prove it, with still not taking it too seriously, not taking anyone lightly, but like still having fun and just kind of going out there and kind of just doing what we did. Like it was kind of just another day at the office, which was, again, probably a cocky way to look at it, but you're 18, 19, you don't know any better.
So thinking back from those 2 national championship runs, I mean, as a fan and as a commit, I can think of maybe 5 or 6 just iconic plays. You think about, Brady Thomas and Jackie against Oklahoma, Jake Williams throw out, Barry's scoop, Christian's homer against Coastal, Roth coming from out. You had a front row seat. Well, kind of a front row. You're out in the bullpen, but a pretty good view of all those moments. Can you pick 1 or 2 favorites that you had a reaction that you maybe weren't expecting, or, you said y'all weren't really paying a whole lot of attention out there, but those big moments, can you pick 1 or 2 favorites throughout that run that really stick in your memory?
That first year, probably Jackie's hit. That I think his was the walk-off.
No, Jack, if I remember correctly, Jackie's one that was like down to the last strike against Oklahoma in the elimination game.
You're right. And then Brady
almost got rung up on a strikeout call. And and then Brady got the go-ahead hit.
I didn't have as good a view for that because the bullpens were on the field at the old Rosenblatt. But like Roth dominating Clemson was awesome. Jake's throw, got a good view of that, him being in left field, just saw it the whole way. Price dominating against Virginia again and again, and they'd call down, "Are y'all ready?" Like, yeah, we told you 5 innings ago we were ready, and then it's like, well, I think they made the right call, but he, kept going back out there. I think Christian, I don't remember what year it was. He had a broken hamate for that whole run one of the times.
When I had him on, I think it was the second national championship.
Yeah, like no one talked about that. He was he was swinging with one hand, and he still hit like 300.
I think the average person doesn't. I broke my hamate, but it's the most painful that you can't even open the door. I have no idea how he swung a bat.
They taped his glove to his hand. Like you stick them and like put it in, like someone had to put his glove on his hand, and like no one talked about that, which was, I thought, even cooler that no one really knew about it. Mm-hmm. Barry's pick, like you should not pick that ball probably as a catcher. Like they don't teach you to pick that.
Yeah.
And then Wingo just caught everything. It was cool to like look back and see all those moments, and like the videos you look back, you're like, man, that was cool.
Yeah, it was just a perfect storm of everything that, obviously incredibly talented, but for all those things to happen to win two back-to-back titles, I think that's why we haven't seen back-to-back titles and probably won't for a long time. But the celebrations after those two championships, the first year, the parade, I didn't go to that with the State House and everything. But the second year, I was at the one at Colonial Life. Compare and contrast those two, and which one would you say did you enjoy more with your teammates?
The first one.
Yeah.
For sure. There were so many people, like I didn't recognize Main Street when we were on the floats. Like I went, then like I played summer ball that summer in Columbia for the Blowfish, and like went on Main Street, and I think I was probably with Lauren at the time, my wife now, girlfriend then, and I was like, I don't think I've ever been down here. She's like, yeah, the parade was down here, and I'm like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But there were so many people, you couldn't like tell where you were until you got to the State House.
Yeah.
Colonial Life was cool. It may be a little louder just because you're indoors and stuff, but the amount of like getting up on those steps and like looking down Main Street, it was crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So get into your junior year, and numbers wise, it looks like that's the year you really kind of came into your own. You had 39 appearances, which is the second most in history at the school. You had a 1.56 ERA, settled into being strictly out of the bullpen, no starts that year. Obviously, you have extremely good numbers in the regular season. But I'm just going to read off your postseason that year. I told you I'm going to brag about you some. You had 2 1/3 and a save against Clemson in the regional. 1 1/3 perfect against Oklahoma in the win that sent us to Omaha. You had 2/3 scoreless against Florida in our first win in Omaha. And then your 2 outings against Arkansas were incredible. You had 5 1/3 scoreless with 5 strikeouts. We lost that game, that first loss to Arkansas. And then you had 4 scoreless with 3 strikeouts in our win against Arkansas to send us to the national championship. You had another scoreless appearance in the national championship against Arizona. So my question is, you pitched in so many big games throughout your career, and that postseason in particular. What was it about those big moments that you think made you kind of step your game up to the next level?
I don't know. I think being in the bullpen helped because you don't get a lot of time to realize what's going on. Like, it's a big moment, but you're so worried about getting loose. Adrenaline takes over. We had a ridiculous defense, so that helped. And, kind of the whole coaching staff was like, don't walk anybody.
Yeah.
Let them put it in play. You'll be fine kind of thing. And, once you see them make those plays all year long, everyone's been there. No one's really nervous. And I think everyone just kind of feeded off that. And then they can just kind of build, you have success in one, and it kind of gives you that confidence to do it in the next one. And those guys in the bullpen will keep you pretty humble. So, you can't get too
Sully's
too
not
on your high horse.
No. So you mentioned it earlier. We'll talk about it now. The 22-game postseason win streak. Talked with Christian about it. I think it's maybe the most unbreakable streak in sports. You pitched probably more than anybody during that streak, if I had to guess, as far as appearances goes. Would you put that up there with the 2 rings as one of the feats in your career that you're most proud of? Because I didn't get to play, and I played maybe 2 games out of that 22. You played in probably 12 or 15 of them.
Yeah.
How cool is that to have kind of on your record?
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's one of those that you don't even know it's happening while it's kind of going on, and then kind of the more you play and maybe the farther you get away from it, you're like, man, that won't happen again.
No.
Like so many things have to go right. You can never have a bad day. A starter can't get sick. You can't, rainouts have to happen at the right time, and like just the stars have to align to make that happen, and they did for what, two and a half years or whatever it was. And you have to have the guys that I think we were kind of lucky that we had a pretty core group of guys that had been through it all. So there was turnover, and there was yourself and other guys that had gone, before, like Coop and Dyson and Witt and Jackie, and then, Kumis and all these other guys come in, and you had to reload, but you had a core group of people that were there for a lot of them, and I think helped a lot.
No, I think it more than helped. I think that was pretty much the only reason. Guys like yourself, Christian, Mars, Roth, guys that were a part of all 22 of those. We came up just short of the three-peat. How cool would that three-peat have been? I mean, I don't think it's been done since, I don't even know, maybe the 50s or 60s, and we were so close, just ran into that hot Arizona team.
Yeah, that one hurt. It would have been cool. Yeah. And I think it was just so, like, it wasn't even a question if we were going to win or not. It was like, no, we'll figure it out. We'll win it. And then, like, we didn't, and it was like disbelief. It's like, what do you mean we didn't win? Like, you sure? Like, yeah. But Arizona, I mean, they were really good, and that I think that was still the year that the bats had been brought back. And,
don't remind me.
And I mean, you can remind me. I loved it. Just throw it down the middle, let them hit it. But nothing was flying, and they just hit, like, it just felt like double after double, and just strung together maybe a couple more hits than we did, and they just beat us. I mean, there's no other way to say it, but it was a good run, and I guess 3 years, trips to a national championship is pretty
Not
good.
too bad. Yeah. So we were kind of all certain that you were going pro after that year. You put up ridiculous numbers, 6'6" lefty. What about, what made you make the decision to come back? Because it was a huge boost to our 2013 team, obviously. What made you want to come back for your senior year? And I know you had opportunities to go pro after your junior year, but we got the news that you were coming back, and we were ecstatic.
Yeah, I didn't really love the draft process. Like, I don't. It's cool. Like, I don't want to say that it's not cool. It's just very stressful, And it's like, well, you take this amount of money. You're like, well, yeah, and then like, all right, we might take you, and then they don't.
Right.
So it's like a lot of like highs and lows, and like, all right, we're gonna do this, and then it wasn't my pick. Someone else had to go, and it's like, well, I'm pretty sure this is your area. Yeah. Like, this is, but so I had gone through that. I mean, that would have been my second time, I think. Yeah, because I was a draft eligible sophomore. So I'd already done that roller coaster once and decided to come back. And then that year, I thought I put up some good numbers and maybe thought I'd go a little higher, and it didn't work out. And then, frankly, got a little pissed. And I was like, well, I'll just go back and do it again. And, I think once I told Coach Tanner that, and he kind of, stoked that fire, and he's like, yeah, come back. And
then he took the AD job.
And then he took the AD job. Yeah, exactly. But it was a little spite on my part. And like, after the second day, I was like, don't call, I'm going back. Like, I had made my mind up, and I'm glad I did. I might have also been I was like, well, I'll just go to 4. I'll go to Omaha 4 times. No one's done that, and just missed it.
Well, I was about to say, we had such a terrible year in 2013. We made it to Game 3 of the Super Regionals. You were a third-team All-American that year, second-team All-SEC. You ended up with the South Carolina record, 110 career appearances. I think I saw the next closest is 98, so you have it by a pretty wide margin. 17 saves that year, pretty incredible, a 1.47 ERA. While you were in the bullpen, all year, and most of your appearances were still short, I did see you had one relief appearance, 4 1/3 innings against Arkansas. What was your routine like to be able to, mentally prepare to throw 1 inning, but also have the stamina to go 4 innings occasionally and be ready on call whenever you're called upon?
First conditioning. So, I mean, everybody knows that Billy, got everyone in really good shape, and, Brainerd and his whole staff kept everybody healthy. And I think attribute a lot of that to them, and then a lot of, there were roles definitely for sure, but it was like, hey, just we need you to, pitch as well as you can for as long as you can was kind of like the mindset that I had. And like, they'll come take the ball when they don't want you to throw anymore.
Yeah.
And, I think that was, they might have told, Coach Myers or Tanner or Calvi, someone was like, hey, we'll let you know when you're done. Just go, lay it out there and we can tell when it's over. And I just didn't really think too much into it. And, I just keep going, and then all of a sudden you're walking out. I'm like, well, I guess this is it.
Pretty simple approach.
I'll see you tomorrow.
So I'm going to read through your South Carolina history, your career here. All right, 4 years, 3 national championship appearances, 2 rings, 1 game away from 4 straight trips to Omaha, and the all-time appearance leader at 110. How would you describe your career as a Gamecock? Accolade-wise for yourself, your experience, everything. How would you describe it?
I mean, awesome. Like, you can't dream it up any better. I had so much fun, met so many great people, met my wife here, met, basically everyone that's in my life now is in some way connected to South Carolina baseball.
Right.
Like, you might meet them because you played here. They might be teammates. They might be, somehow or another, it all goes back to making the decision to come here and play baseball. And I mean, I think it was the best decision I made in my life. And it led to kind of where I am today. And it was a pretty good career. And, a lot of great teammates and memories made. And, I'd go back and do it in a heartbeat right now.
I think we all would. Yeah. Now we're just getting old.
Yeah.
So I read all that off, and you and I have talked about it before, but do you almost feel like your career is underrated? Everyone talks, and rightfully so, everyone talks about Roth and Price, but like I said, you were the all-time appearance leader. You were in all those big games. Your numbers were absolutely ridiculous. Do you ever feel like to the outside world you're kind of underrated, or you kind of not feel that?
Maybe. I mean, but I think that's the pros and cons of being on a really, really good team. Like, I'd rather be underrated on a 2-time national championship team than overrated on one that didn't win anything.
Right.
I think it just kind of par for the course. And, I think my teammates and coaches and everyone that kind of digs a little deeper know what I did. And, and I know what I did. That's good enough for me. And, maybe it'll, get a little more traction someday. Maybe it won't. That's,
I think you're fine with it
no
either
big
way.
deal.
Yeah. So last thing about your South Carolina career, talk about what Coach Tanner, Coach Holbrook, and especially Coach Myers meant to you as your development as a pitcher and also just as a person.
Everything. I mean, I was thinking about it earlier today, like the way that coaching staff prepared you for the next level, even, before I knew what the next level would be, helped me tremendously. Like, you played to their standard and what they expected, or you didn't play. And like, it's might have seemed harsh then, but, you don't like it, play better kind of thing. And then, I think having that experience and having to produce and having to do things the right way jump-started my professional career. And, a couple years into that, and then now looking back, it's like, man, I really, they really prepared me for the mental grind of professional baseball. And almost the business side of it is like, hey, you're here to do your job. And I don't think that was everyone's kind of experience in college. And I really think it got all of us off on the right foot and kind of in that mindset for professional.
Yeah. And to your point, I have no clue how guys go from high school straight to pro ball. I mean, it would have eaten me alive if I didn't come to school. Speaking of pro ball, you're drafted in the 10th round by the Yankees. You had a 10-year pro career, parts of 5 seasons in the big leagues. Yankees, Brewers, Padres, Cardinals. Was that the order?
Yeah.
For the people that don't know, talk about how different professional baseball is than college baseball, and take it any direction you want to go, because they're not even the same, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the rules are the same. That's about it.
Yeah.
It's like I thought we played a lot of games in college. Like I was like, there's just no way you can play more than 60 games.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no chance. And then they're like,
Do that in 2 months.
yeah, you can do that in spring training. And it's just so many games, so many on one, like you get to this big D1 program, South Carolina, you have every advantage you can possibly want, and then all of a sudden you're on a bus that the AC breaks down on a 6-hour bus trip in Northeast somewhere, just in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Like, they're both cool experiences. One gets old a little quicker than the other, but it's just a different game, and kind of not the rules are different, but like the way you go about it might be a little different.
Mm-hmm.
You might lose. I think you enjoy it a little more in college, maybe just because you're not getting paid to do it.
Right.
People are now,
Yeah.
but it's just more. College was a little more fun. Pro ball was a lot of fun, but you just had to find more outlets on how to get away from the game.
Yeah. Who were some of your biggest mentors in pro ball? I've heard you talk about a guy like Adam Wainwright.
Mm-hmm.
Who are some of the guys that they took you under their wing and you learned from on how to be a professional? And you can talk about Wainwright. That's one of them.
Wayno would definitely be one. He's might be one of the nicest humans. He is one of the nicest humans I've ever met.
Right.
Like, if you didn't know that he's Adam Wainwright, World Series, and all the accolades, you just think, man, this is a really nice guy. Like,
yeah.
And for the most part, that was my experience in pro ball. Like, all the guys that were super famous were so nice, and as long as you did your job, they'd be there to help. Yadi, CC was super nice. Brett Gardner, all the guys in the bullpen, like they wanted you to do well because that meant the team did well.
Right.
Like, and they had been in your shoes, they wanted to make fun of you a little bit and make you sing in front of a bus and dress you up in, a couple stupid outfits,
Yeah.
but they wanted you to do well because then the team would do well. I mean, Andrew Miller, if I had a question, I went to him. Like,
Yeah.
I looked up to him so much, and it was so cool played catch with him for a year,
Mm-hmm.
and just got to pick his brain in the bullpen. But everyone coming up and was so nice and so accommodating. And then, hopefully you try, like, later on, you try and help people out a little bit. But I mainly gravitate more to the bullpen guys because I didn't get as much one-on-one time in the dugout with everyone else. But
what song did you have to sing on the bus? Do you remember?
oh yeah, I remember. I just sang Country Roads.
Oh, that's a good one. Did you get to pick it, or they picked it?
I didn't
for you?
get to pick it,
Yeah.
but I guess somehow Yachty thought I was from West Virginia and not Virginia. I don't know if he knew the difference, but I wasn't going to tell him any different.
Yeah.
So, I had to sing Country Roads, and teammate Jed Drico played at West Virginia, so he helped. He was kind of mouthing me the words on the front,
nice.
so he helped me out a little bit there. But it was terrible.
Yeah.
But once it's over,
It's done.
it's done. They yell at you a little bit, and then the next bus trip you get to yell at someone else.
That's
so.
right. Well, you led me into my next question. Yadier Molina, he was one of my one or two idols growing up. I think I got 3 signed jerseys my whole time playing, and he was one of them, along with Aaron Judge and Miggy. What was it like throwing to him and being his teammate? One of the, in my opinion, probably one of the 2 or 3 best catchers of the last 30 years or so.
Yeah. It was intimidating.
Yeah.
It was pretty intimidating for sure. He's just so intense, and like he commanded such a presence. Like, at least the way I felt, like I was more worried about, like, am I doing? Is Yachty happy with what I'm doing? And then it was the manager and the coaching staff. But he's so good back there, and it's so like instinctual, and he like it was fun to throw to.
Tell the story. I don't remember if it was in a game or in a bullpen, where one time he was pissed off or something, and then he was like, "Just throw it. I'm not putting down signs. I'll catch it."
Yeah. So, well,
shows how good he is. One.
This was like 2019 maybe, and this was like during the whole sign stealing scandal and all this stuff was going on. So we had these like elaborate, I think they were touches at the time or something, and I think we were playing the Rangers, and I come in and we're like, "Hey, we're going with the touches," and I got confused, or I got crossed up or something, and like I think I was running off one side. I had it flipped anyway, so like I cross him up. He gets pretty pissed and comes out. He's like, "You know the signs?" I was like, "Yeah, I got it. I'm good. Sorry." He's like, "All right, no worries." Goes back. I keep crossing him up because I thought I had him right. I just had him flipped. And so he just like kind of stares me down and then just goes like, "Throw whatever you want." No signs. And I faced a whole batter.
Yeah.
Him not knowing what was coming on. He didn't drop a ball. We got out of the inning, and like I was so scared just because I had been crossing him up for a batter, and we went to a card system after that.
Yeah,
so,
that's terrifying.
Yeah, but then I'm like, man, that was impressive. And then like it set in. I'm like, was my stuff just not that good? Because like he made that look really easy.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna chalk it up to he's just that good. But he was just like, yeah, come on, caught everything.
Well, you got the opportunity to throw in some huge playoff games for the Cardinals. I remember I forget where we are with Pancake and all those guys. We're watching the game. I think it was against the Braves, maybe. And we're like, holy crap, Webb's pitching. It was a big spot. Describe the intensity of pitching in a major league playoff game versus, obviously the big games you got to pitch in at Carolina.
I'd say it's similar. You just crank it up a little bit more. The crowd noise, I'd say it differs home to away, you know. Kind of at home, obviously they're cheering for you and it's in a big spot and they're trying to build it up, and then away they're just trying to make as much noise as they can. But it's cool. I tried to not look around too much and like keep my hat down and like just, all right, if I don't look over the umpire, I can't see kind of what's going on. And then once, the outing was over and got in the dugout, then it's like, okay, now enjoy the moment. Like you're out of it. You can breathe a little bit. The heart rate gets a little elevated for sure, but it's still the same thing. And, good thing about the bullpen is you probably just go out there and do it again tomorrow. So it was really cool looking back, and luckily, I was lucky enough to have a couple of them and pitch pretty well. And Yadi and all those guys, when they give you the ball, they know it's your first time out there, and they kind of encourage you and build it up a little bit. So it was cool. Yeah,
that's awesome. So I've asked a couple of my previous guests, I think Christian, Winecoop, Joey, guys that aren't from Columbia that choose to live here now and make this home. What is it about Columbia that made you and Lauren want to make this kind of your permanent home?
There was a lot of things,
Weather
one for sure, and then like I would say just being from such a small town, like keeping being a professional at the time, it made more sense to be in Columbia where I could work out and had people to throw to like you, and, could use the weight room for a little bit, and then got in with the group at Athletes Arena and Shane and all that. There was more of a support system and more of it just made more sense to be down here for a little bit. And then, before you know it, it's like, well, I've almost been here as long as I've, been in Virginia at this point. And it's, my family probably wouldn't love to hear that, but it feels like home now, and, we'll be here for a while. For sure.
And you mentioned Shane at Athletes Arena. I was asking Becker about it when I had him on a few weeks back, and you probably know it as much, if not more than Beck. How much did he mean to you in your professional career once we kind of got that good group of pro guys that went over there, and as a friend, as a trainer, his impact on your career?
It was huge. Yeah. It was, I think you reach a point where you need some help, and you kind of know, I've taken this as far as I can take it by myself, and I need a support system around me to help me hopefully take that next step. And he was part of that, and getting guys to push each other and hold each other accountable, and someone to throw to. And he helped with nutrition. He helped with, all right, well, there's more to lifting weights than just moving heavy weights. Is this helping you be a better pitcher? Is this helping you be a better catcher? It was that dialed into the specific things you needed for your specific position, which was great, I think. But I mean, Shane was a huge part of that. But again, Billy introduced me to Shane. Right. So like, when I didn't have enough money to go to Athletes Arena, Billy let me work out at Carolina for 5 off seasons, I think. And then finally, when I made it up and had some money and wanted to, kind of invest in myself, I then went to Athletes Arena, and Billy's like, this is where you need to go. This is where the guys are going. And it just kind of all worked out. And, I owe it to Billy in the early part for letting me just kind of sneak into the weight room and use that in the morning. And then Shane for making me run and do yoga and all this stuff that I didn't want to do, kind of held me accountable to get to that next level.
Yeah, sure. And Billy and Shane are 2 of the best guys you'll ever meet. I mean, 2 guys that you and I spend a lot of time around and absolutely love. And one of my favorite things you used to always say is, anybody can get people out at 100. Yeah. It takes real skill to get people out at 89. So what do you think it was about your pitch arsenal, your angle, whatever it may be, or your mentality that made you so successful for a guy that didn't throw 98 miles an hour?
I would have traded places with the guy throwing 100 anytime. But I think everyone has their specific skill level and what they do well, and I think finding out what you do well is important, and knowing kind of your niche, and then working on stuff that you need to get better at. Like I was always kind of chasing that good lefty breaking ball, and had the changeup kind of dialed in, pretty much all the time. And then figuring out, okay, why don't people see it that well? What am I doing to hide the ball and spinning it? And I guess in college and early in pro ball, no one knew about like the spin rates and, the hoppy heater and all that kind of stuff. And then figuring that out, like kind of slowly, it was like, oh, I do spin it efficiently. It does appear a little, I hide it pretty good. It's all just kind of builds on itself, and then you try to highlight that and then make the other stuff come up with it without losing kind of what you are, I guess, is the trick, which is, harder than I think people think.
Yeah. So how's the transition been since you've retired? It can be very difficult for some guys. It can be very easy for some guys. You and I had very similar times of when we retired and lengths of career. And is it something that you still miss at times, or are you pretty at peace with, the next chapter of your life?
I'd say both. Yeah. I mean, I think it definitely has phases. I'm at peace with going out there and performing and the anxiety and all the stuff that comes with professional sports. But I also miss, being outside all day and, screwing around in the locker room and getting to go travel to places I would never have gone if I hadn't played. But I am at peace with that being over, and I think I was I knew it was, baseball wise was getting older and knew it was coming to an end, and felt like I was kind of kicking the can down the road. And it's like, all right, well, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Let's not kind of try and drag this out, and see how much longer we can, put the Band-Aids on and keep it going. I was excited for a new challenge. And
Yeah.
I think it depends on the day.
This time of year, I feel like for me personally, spring training, just the excitement of a new season. Every year when spring training starts, I get a little sad. But then when I look up and it's middle of July and there's still half the season left, I kind of like it right now, just hanging out at home. But, we had the Ray Tanner field dedication a few weeks back. We had a great party afterwards, got to see a lot of people. How cool was it getting to reconnect with guys you probably hadn't seen in, I don't know, 10, 12 years.
Awesome.
We had such a fun time. Just talk a little bit about getting to see some of your former teammates, like I said, that you haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, saw guys that I hadn't seen in, like you said, 10, 15 years. Some of them you keep up with. You have that group that you talk to no matter what, and it seems like that group gets smaller and smaller each year just because of life and family and kids and all that sort of thing. But, it was really cool to have a reason to go back and see everybody and get together and reminisce and kind of open that yearbook back up and kind of relive all those moments, and get to celebrate Tanner and everything that he meant to everyone, and hear other stories about their time at Carolina, and then what everybody else was doing. And it's kind of weird because it's like, man, it's been a long time, and then some guys you see, you're like, not a day has passed, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I know you pretty well, or I think I know you pretty well, and I know you like to live a very simple life. Doesn't take a whole lot to make you happy. What are some of your hobbies and interests now that you're done playing? The way you keep your time occupied, you and Lauren.
We finally got a boat since retiring, so that's been cool. Getting on the lake is awesome. Like you said, opening day, you get a little bummed, but then it's 4th of July and you're not in the middle of nowhere watching fireworks. You're on the lake. You're like, yeah, this could work. I could do this. And then kind of found photography as an outlet while I was playing, tried to get away, was tired of sitting in hotel rooms, and Instagram was kind of taking off, and I thought I could do that, and kind of found that hobby, which was cool. I'd like to get back into golf.
We'll get out there.
Yeah, so we need to get out there. But
you need to get your clubs back from Wine Coop.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. But I just photography, seeing people, getting out on the lake when it gets warm. Just enjoying being in one place and kind of knowing what that routine is going to be every day is kind of awesome, really.
Yeah. Well, Webby, thank you for coming on. That's really all I got for you. It's been fun. I had to do some research for this. I knew you had a great career. I had no idea how incredible of a career you had, not only at South Carolina, but professionally. But just want to say thanks for coming on and reminiscing about good times with me a little bit.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
That'll do it for this week's Whole Lotta Glove. See y'all next week.